on the eastern boundary, and the tree roots of that copse will be protected from any development, so it maintains itself as an established feature. The development lies to the west of that, and one of the reasons for bringing you here was to note that the watercourse that runs through this site. We were standing over to the west, and it meanders. Now if you pick up the tree line just on the horizon of the hillock there, that sort of doubles back in itself and comes along the burn here. Now you will see from the application site and the plans in front of you, we are standing just here. That's the point, the eastern side of the burn. Development is also proposed on the land between Kingsteps and the allocated site in the development plan. I'll point that out when we get to committee. So the application includes land up to the boundaries of the existing houses and gardens and community of Kingsteps. Okay? The intent is to build a road network serving the housing development which is on the land in front of you, which will be serviced by the two access points from the west. The track you have just come down will not form part of the adopted road that will be used by the development. All housing will go out via a meadow, a lead development, the Montgomery Drive, and options that lead to Lochloy Road. However, there is a path here that's used by pedestrians and cyclists, and provisions will be made in case of an emergency for an emergency vehicle to use this access if it was ever necessary that an alternate route out of this area was required. So I encourage you to look at the plans to see how a number of houses on the land, and as we walk back over the bridge on the land between Kingsteps and the watercourse, a buffer is to be retained either side of the watercourse, so it remains a feature of the area, and that the development will take place largely in the field in front of you. Check my notes to say that nothing else at this point.
Members, any points of clarification? Any points of... Councillor Bradford.
The water course, I was told over there, was a perpetually running one, which I notice it barely is here, but it is. But it's very far below the ground here. Yet we heard over there that it has flooded quite frequently. So what's the score? Could we
With every application where there's a concern of flooding, a consultation is undertaken with the council's flood team. They take an assessment of the ground and the qualities of the drainage of this area, and they assess whether or not the development and all that comes with it in terms of the management of surface water, wastewater and so on, and how that would be accommodated by design in terms of the continued balance of water through the watercourse and to the surrounding area. No objections have been raised by the flood team, taking into account a 1 in 200 year flood event plus 30% for climate change. So they've assessed it, and under extreme conditions they feel that the design and the watercourse will survive quite adequately.
But a lady who complained over there said that this wasn't an uncommon occurrence.
Well, you know, the advice we take is from the specialists who have looked at the detailed plans.
Any members, any points of clarification?
Yeah, Chair, it was just to ask the Principal Planner again, we talked about traffic over at the other site, and it was to ask here, this track is obviously well used, it's used for farm vehicles and the like. If residents in these houses here, once built, were to see congestion on the other road, because as we've established for emergency services, one road in and one road out, there is the tendency for somebody to want to jump the traffic and therefore use this as a shortcut to get back onto the road. Is that something that's being considered? Because clearly, bicycles and foot passengers would use this regularly, but there'd be a large temptation to use it.
Absolutely. We have a number of locations in Inverness and across Highlands where posts are put in the ground, but ambulances or a fire engine, should they go across them, they would go down. They're not deliberately designed to be knocked down, but they're also a barrier. So there should be no traffic coming through here whatsoever. but in the case of an emergency, the barrier can be knocked down.
Okay.
So what's stopping just one person knocking it down and everyone using it?
Exactly.
Human nature.
Any members, any further points of clarification?
Yeah, this sort of line of trees that runs parallel along the stream, they make a fairly good buffer line. Will those trees be left intact? Or?
Yeah, but there'll be houses built on the other side of it. Can I make some observations, Mr. Chairman?
You can point out physical characteristics. Your observations along the remainder of that.
I'll be very careful. I asked you to note the urban character of Meadowlee, and you've now come through Kingsteps, and I think you'll agree it's totally different. It is a rural settlement. Mr. McCorkindale in his report has stated that Kingsteps is not identified as a separate settlement, it is part of Nairn. Clearly that is wrong. It is historically always has been a separate settlement, separated from Nairn. It's a rural community. The planners in the past have been very careful to preserve the amenity of Kingsteps. You may have noticed there was plots of land for sale as you come into Kingsteps. That is the most recent development in Kingsteps. In fact, it's the only development in Kingsteps for 20 years. The applicant wanted to build 7 houses on that site. The planner said no, 5 houses maximum to preserve the amenity and the character of Kingsteps. What now concerns us, they can say that, and we appreciate that. They then turn around and say, oh, you can have 115 houses, urban houses, right up to the boundary of Kingsteps. Contradiction, inconsistency of approach. What Kingsteps residents are saying, we accept...
We're beginning to...
Well,
stick with it. I'm giving you a bit of leeway.
We're realistic, we accept...
Kingsteps, not overstep.
No, that's what the development is.
Okay.
We're realistic. This site has been designated for housing. Housing it will be. The point we've made is, as I said over there, this is a natural boundary, this waterway. Build your houses this side of the waterway. Leave everything north of that waterway undeveloped. That is a buffer zone. Mr. McCorkindale's buffer zone is 5 metres, 5 paces. That's not a buffer zone. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So where does this water course go into? Where does it flow into? How far does it go?
Well, it flows down through the golf course to the beach.
Right, and where does it go that way?
So, pardon?
Where does it go that way?
It goes that way. It goes from probably an extended part. It goes through various lock-ins and agricultural fields and ditches and so on towards all down.
Okay, so all of it goes after Drum. It goes the other way.
Pretty much at the Drum, you've been into wetland or near the railway.
So this actually goes down to the beach. So it goes through the SSSI, which was pointed out before.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I've actually got 3 questions. That was a quick one. They're all quick questions. I assume that the members here, are aware that this is a major cycle route, and that we have a lot of cyclists going up and down this road, which makes it incredibly difficult. And I bring that up because if any further traffic goes east, which it's bound to because there are more cars and we'll go the pretty way, that is actually putting a danger on those cyclists on that single track road where there's hardly anywhere to pass. And I can actually confirm that because I drive that road every day because I live down there. And I have to give way to cyclists all the time, every day, without fail. So all extra traffic from this housing is going to go both ways. We're not just having to look at the traffic lights, we've got to look at the other way as well. Okay. So, has that been taken into consideration?
Point on the plans that you mentioned earlier.
Hold on one minute. This little page.
I just want to mention one of the background issues, which is that we thought we were having a bypass quite soon for the A96, and that's not happening at the moment, and that when the Highland Development Plan, the Inner Money First Development Plan was formed, there was an assumption that we would be looking at the bypass being built about now, and no decisions have been made about distributor roads that will take traffic to the bypass. So it's very premature or any further development here is going to remain as congested. The roads are going to remain congested for an indefinite time. And when the reporter from the Scottish Government wrote his report, he said that any further development on this site, which is called NA2 on the plan, there would need to be distributor roads built, and there are no plans in place for that, which means other roads that would take the traffic out the back of the Lochloy estate and away from the wee country roads that we're talking about. And none of that is laid down, and to be passing more housing without any other infrastructure plans in place is quite difficult.